Confronting our fears sometimes means testing our courage. However, doing so is important for our personal growth and happiness. While watching this video, you will gain a better understanding of yourself and discover ways to overcome your fears. Let's get into the video. Last summer, I started working as a night clerk at a hotel. The manager, responsible for the hotel, was with me for a few days to complete my training. However, when he and his wife left the city for a week-long vacation, I found myself alone for the first time on the night shift. There was a monitor with security camera footage around the hotel's premises and large windows made of glass all around the office building. Unlike a typical hotel, we didn't have a night window. It was around 1 a.m. when I was doing my usual check-in procedures. A man walked in and asked if we had any rooms available. Usually, if someone seemed suspicious, my boss would tell me to lie and say no. But the man seemed normal, so without hesitation I said yes. He requested a single room, so I quickly started the reservation process. When the man left to go to his room, he began exhibiting strange behavior. He was swatting at the air and making spitting noises as if surrounded by flies. Since it wasn't my concern, I ignored it and continued with my tasks. When he returned to get his key, he started banging his hand on the glass door, startling me. With shock on my face, I looked at him, and he approached me. He cracked the door open, stuck his head inside, and asked, "Why won't you let me into my room?" "Why can't I get into my room?" Trying to be helpful, I replied, "Maybe there's a problem with your key. Let me give you another one." The look in his eyes was indescribable. I truly felt in danger. I handed him his new key, and he went back to his room. I tried to message Michael for help, but there was no reply. When I heard the man coming back again, I panicked, retreated to the back office, locked the door, and pulled out the knife from my pocket. I heard him yelling, "Hello, hello. Why won't you let me into my room? Why don't you like me?" Choosing to flee instead of confronting him, I ran. Luckily, he was going to the wrong room. I felt safe. After this incident, I spoke to my boss, but he didn't take it seriously. My boss may not have taken the incident seriously, but I haven't forgotten about it. Every night during my shift, I started feeling more vigilant. One night I was having a quiet night at the hotel, but I sensed that something wasn't right. When I checked the security cameras, I saw a man walking around outside the hotel. I watched closely and noticed that the man was lingering around the hotel. Suddenly, the man started running towards the hotel entrance and began banging on the door forcefully. My heart started racing as if it would leap out of my chest. With my usual vulnerability, I resisted opening the door and decided to call the police immediately. As I picked up the phone, I saw that the man continued to force the door. I finally called the police and explained the situation. I asked them to come as soon as possible and neutralize the man. In the meantime, I heard the man continuing to force the door, threatening me, but I had to wait until the police arrived. Eventually, the police arrived and subdued the man. They arrested him and initiated an investigation into the incident. After this event, we decided to increase security measures at the workplace. Now there are more security cameras and emergency buttons installed. Additionally, our staff received emergency training. This experience encouraged me to be more cautious and prepared for dangers around me. I now place more importance on workplace safety, and I am more alert to strange behaviors of people around me. Although it was scary, this experience has strengthened me and made me a more resilient individual. Once upon a time, I used to work as a caretaker in an old mansion. The mansion's history was quite ancient and surrounded by many mysteries. According to legends, there were rumors of ghosts haunting the mansion, but I didn't really believe in them until one night a terrifying experience convinced me otherwise. That night I was alone in the mansion, as our landlord had gone on a long trip. I turned off all the lights and went to bed, but I felt that something was amiss. The room was silent, but there was an eerie feeling, as if someone was watching me. Suddenly, I saw a strange light flickering from the corner of the room. I rubbed my eyes and looked again, but the room was completely dark. However, I sensed something moving around the room. That's when, all of a sudden, a shadow appeared by the side of my bed. Frozen in fear, I didn't know what to do. I closed my eyes and began to pray silently. After a while, when I opened my eyes again, the shadow had disappeared. The next day, I tried to forget about the terrifying experience and continue with my normal work. However, the atmosphere in the mansion seemed to have changed somehow. The old stone walls seemed to whisper to me, and every step I took sent shivers down my spine. The next night, while waiting for the landlord to return, I was sitting alone in my room. Suddenly, I felt a slight breeze and sensed the door creaking open. I closed my eyes and felt my heart racing. The room was silent, but I felt that something was about to happen. Then I heard someone breathing behind me. I quickly turned around, but I couldn't see anyone. I took a deep breath and mustered up my courage. I looked around the room, but everything seemed normal. That's when I saw a shadow appearing on the wall. My heart was pounding, and for a moment, everything went dark. When I opened my eyes again, the shadow was still there, moving closer towards me. Trembling with fear, I backed away and tried to open the door, but something was blocking it. I started screaming for help and banging on the door. Eventually, the door opened, and there stood the landlord. Face to face with him, I recounted the nightmare I had experienced. He just smiled and told me to calm down, reassuring me that the mansion was not haunted and what I had experienced was just a dream. But I knew that what I had experienced that night was real. Years ago, during a weekend camping trip with friends, I experienced a terrifying incident in the forest that I will never forget. Our campsite was in a remote and isolated area, so there were rarely any other people around. On the first night, as we sat around the campfire, we felt something silently lurking in the woods. However, there was nothing visible in the darkness. The next day, we went for a hike and stumbled upon an old cabin nearby. As we approached the entrance of the cabin, we heard strange noises coming from inside, as if something was hiding there. Gathering our courage, we entered the cabin and found a wall covered in bizarre symbols. Even more disturbingly, we discovered feathers and fresh bloodstains on the floor. Quickly, we left the cabin and returned to our campsite, but we couldn't sleep that night. In the early hours of the morning, as we gathered around the campfire again, we heard a distant whistling sound coming from the direction of the cabin. Our hearts raced with fear as we remembered the events of the previous night. Everyone fell silent, and our eyes turned towards the forest. After a while, we heard footsteps approaching from the woods. Our hearts pounded in our throats as a silhouette emerged. But this time, it wasn't a man. It looked like an animal. A large wolf slowly advancing towards us in the light of the campfire. In a panic, we didn't know what to do. We hoped the wolf would ignore us. But as it got closer, our hearts felt like they were about to burst. Thankfully, the wolf ignored us and continued on into the forest. After that harrowing encounter with the wolf near the cabin, we couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. It was as though the forest itself held secrets that we were not meant to uncover. Despite our trepidation, we decided to stay another night, hoping to unravel the mysteries surrounding the old cabin. As darkness descended upon the forest once again, we found ourselves drawn back to the cabin, compelled by an inexplicable curiosity. This time we approached with caution, our senses on high alert. As we neared the cabin, a chill ran down our spines, and the hairs on the back of our necks stood on end. Entering the cabin felt like stepping into another realm altogether. The air was thick with an ominous presence, and the symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Determined to uncover the truth, we began to examine the cabin more closely, searching for any clues that might shed light on its dark past. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the cabin, extinguishing our lanterns and plunging us into darkness. Panic gripped us as we fumbled in the blackness, struggling to find our way out. It was then that we heard it, a low, guttural growl emanating from the shadows. Frozen in fear, we stood as still as statues, listening intently for any sign of movement. But the growling grew louder, closer, until it felt as though the very walls of the cabin were closing in around us. With mounting dread, we realized that we were not alone in the darkness. In a desperate bid for survival, we made a run for the door, blindly groping our way through the pitch-black interior. As we burst out into the night, we were met with a scene of utter chaos. The forest seemed to come alive with unseen terrors, shadows swirling and shifting in the moonlight. Heart-pounding, breathless with fear, we stumbled blindly through the underbrush, driven by instinct alone. And then, just when it seemed that we could go no further, we stumbled upon a clearing in the woods. There, bathed in the soft glow of the moon, stood the most enigmatic sight of all, a figure cloaked in shadow, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly light. In that moment, we knew that we had stumbled upon something beyond our comprehension, something ancient and unknowable. With a sense of profound awe and terror, we realized that the secrets of the forest were far more sinister than we could have ever imagined. As dawn broke over the horizon, we made a solemn vow to never return to that cursed place again. For in the heart of the forest, there lurked an entity beyond human understanding, a force of darkness that would forever haunt our nightmares. And though we may never fully understand its true nature, one thing was certain: the enigma of the woods would remain etched in our memories for all eternity. Hello, horror enthusiasts. We're concluding with this story. We've experienced an adventure filled with mysterious truths and dark secrets behind the terrifying moments. Thank you for experiencing this unforgettable journey with us, filled with chilling moments and profound thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and follow our channel because there's more to come. Until next time, stay safe and don't get lost in the darkness.